in this video we'll be making snowflake number 2, which is going to look like this. So again, there's a couple different snowflakes you get to pick from, so you should be watching the video that says snowflake 2. I'm going to start a new drawing. And I'm just going to make sure that it has my title block and border and all my different line types. I can, while I'm here, make sure to change my title block. I'll call this snowflake 2. And we're just going to continue with our drawing numbers as we've been going. So if your last one was 20, this should be 21. If your last one was 18, this should be 19, and so on and so on. So we're always going to draw in model space. We're actually drawing our snowflake a little bit larger than we want it, and that's okay because we can scale it and look at it through a different size in the viewport. So I'm going to start in my object layer, and I'm going to start with a circle. Now the default circle in AutoCAD, as we should remember, is a center radius. So I'm going to pick anywhere in my viewable screen, and that's going to be where I put the center of my circle. We're going to use a radius of 3, which means our circle is going to have a diameter of 6. Now, a new tool we're going to use is XL. This is called an X line. So I'm just typing XL on my keyboard and pressing enter. It's a line that we can have go horizontal, vertical, at an angle. We can bisect it, we can offset it, and it's going to go on forever. So I'm going to start with a vertical line. So I'm going to say V, enter, and it's going to draw this kind of indefinite, going on forever line. And I'm going to snap that to the center of the circle. If you notice, I had to hover over the side, and that activated this center point. If it's not snapping to that, I can come over here, and this square with a little square is my OSnap shortcut. I can, if I wanted to close out of the tool, I can type OSnap, or I can just right-click over here, and it'll give me a quick view of which ones I have selected. If you notice, I have them all selected. So it's important that I'm always looking for the specific symbols. So I'm going to snap my vertical X line to the center of my circle. And then I'm going to do another X line, but I'm going to use an angle. So I'm going to do A, enter, and I'm going to set it at a 45-degree angle. And I'm going to snap that also to the center of my circle. So notice there is nothing to snap to. I'm going to hover over the side of that, and that's going to give me that center point. So again, those lines go on indefinitely. I'm just going to zoom back in. And I can actually trim a large majority of this, because we're just going to work on kind of this one pie slice of our design, because what we're going to do is we're going to array this. So we're really only making like 1/16 of our snowflake. So next I'm going to draw a circle where my circle and my vertical line intersected with a radius of 0.25. Now what's cool about AutoCAD is if I press enter, it's going to reactivate the last tool that I had selected. So I'm going to find my center point. And now I'm just going to press enter again, and it's going to default to the same radius. You can see that down here in my command bar. So I'm just going to press enter, and it's going to make that the same. You can also just type 0.25 again and press enter. So I'm going to trim kind of the center of my circle and the outsides, because again, when we array this, it will, like this half will actually become over here. You'll see what we're talking about as we get there. So I'm going to press escape to close out of any active tools. Now I'm going to offset. You can use the offset button, or you can just type O, enter for offset. And I'm going to use 0.125. And I'm going to offset my X line inside for both of them. So I'm bringing both of those lines toward the inside of it. At this point I can trim the tops of these. And I can trim the lines that came inside those circles. And we can trim this connector as well. That was just to help us get this aligned so that way we can array this. The next tool I'm going to use is ellipse, and I'm just going to type ellipse. And I'm going to look for the midpoint. So I'm looking for this triangle on this line. So I'm going to click to that. If I can't find it, I can also type MID enter, and that'll force it to look for that midpoint. Now, it snapped those 2 points, but I can still change this length, and I'm going to set that to 0.75. So it's an ellipse is what you would probably think of an oval, but it's the technical term for it. So I'm going to trim these 3 extra parts of my ellipse because I only want that part that's connecting those 2 lines that I connected to. Now I'm going to offset this, O, enter, and I'm going to offset this 0.25. Now this is going to look significantly thicker than over here, but when this is arrayed, these are going to become, that 0.125 is going to be added to this 0.125 to create that 0.25. So now I'm going to trim. I'm going to trim these extra pieces. Oh, and I can actually trim these connectors as well. There we go. Now I'm going to use X-line, XL again, my X-line. But instead of choosing horizontal, vertical, or an angle, I'm going to actually select these 2 points. I want this indefinite line through these 2 points. It should. Let's try that again. I'm not totally sure. Oh, it was just something going on with AutoCAD. So I'm going to delete this. I'm going to take this time to save because something sometimes happens with AutoCAD where it gets a little bit glitchy. I don't want to lose any of my work. So again, I'm going to save it. I'm going to choose my period number, underscore, last name or username, underscore, whatever it is. So I would use your username, redic would be mine, whatever you would use at the start of your email. I'm going to save. And I'm going to try that X line again. I may have to close out of my program and reopen it if this doesn't work. There it goes. There's my X line. It's going indefinitely through those 2 points. So this is bisecting that angle that we created when we drew this. So I'm going to offset this, O, enter, and I'm going to do that 0.125 again because I'm going to offset in both directions. So I'm going to take this and I'm going to offset in this direction and in that direction. If you notice, it's looking kind of funny. I think that's just something glitchy with AutoCAD. I'm going to try and keep going. If I need to, I'll close out of the program and we can reopen it. So I offset that line in both directions, and then I'm actually going to delete this center line. So now I'm going to trim. I'm using this to create a gap in these lines. So I'm going to trim here, and that's going to create that. Rather than trying to trim through this a lot to connect these, I'm just going to select my 2 lines and delete them. And then I'm just going to draw in a regular line. So I can use my L, enter, I can click the button, and I'm just going to close those 2 connectors on. Now, this looks pretty good. The only funny part is these overlapping lines here. So I'm going to use my fillet tool, and I'm going to use 0.125. And then I'm going to fillet this line and this line. So that way I have them. So I just used that fillet to clean that up. So I'm going to undo that just so I can show you again. Fillet, radius of 0.125, and I'm just going to click on my 2 lines to create that. There you go. Now I just did a little bit of work, I just saved, but because AutoCAD is behaving funny, anytime I do something I don't want to have to do again, I'm just going to press save. Now I'm going to select my whole object, and I can type array, but I like to look up here. I just want to show you there's 3 different kinds of array. A rectangular array is going to distribute your object in any combination of rows and columns. Think about the stars on the flag. That's a rectangular array. It's the same shape over different rows and columns. A path array will distribute your object along a line. And then a polar array, which is what we're going to use and we are using for all of the snowflakes, creates a circular pattern around a center point. So I'm going to choose polar array, and I'm going to choose my center point. Now, it defaulted to 6. But if you notice, there's still a big gap here. So I'm going to change the number of items to 8. And that's going to give me that nice snowflake symmetrical design. So I'm going to close array. And this is what I want. But if you look, this is now one object. I don't actually want these inside lines. We're going to eventually laser cut some of these things out, and any line is going to be a cut line. I don't want to cut this into 8 separate pieces. So I'm going to type explode, and I'm just going to select this object. I'm going to press enter, and now you can see everything's going to behave as we drew it as individual parts and pieces. So I'm just going to select all my inside lines and press delete. So there is my final snowflake to snowflake. So I'm just going to come back over here. I'm going to actually set it at half scale because we drew it 2 to 1. So I'm going to place that in the center of my page. I'm going to turn off my grid. Again, the grid is up to you. I just prefer to have my grid off. It does also fit 1 to 1, so if we want to look at it a little bit bigger, I can do that as well. And I'm just going to make sure I fill out the rest of my title block and attach the drawing to the assignment. Okay? Good luck. Let me know if you have any questions.